So what is the semi-retired real estate agent? I'll tell you. Hey there, welcome to my Epique Journey. This is Brandon DeVere. Thank you, as always, for tuning in and sharing your time with me. I do appreciate that. Here we are on the journey from 600 to 0 to 600 plus. Very happy to have you with me. Today I want to talk a little bit about something. It's a book I wrote. Sorry, I'm feeling a little cold coming on, but a book I wrote back in 2020, and the reason that I wrote the book, or a couple reasons why I wrote the book, and what it actually means to me. So the book title, there's a couple different titles that I was going to have. Originally, I wanted to call it Brokers Without Borders because that's how I felt that a rev share model that we would be getting paid like a broker from transactions, but not limited by the borders where we did our business, right? So I would be getting paid off of deals that are happening in Washington State, in Florida, in Texas, all over the country, in Canada, all over, but I was located here in Las Vegas. So I essentially was a broker without borders. However, when I sent it to my editor, she started looking up Brokers Without Borders, and she said, hey, this is associated with an arms dealer. You might not want to use that. For the URL was associated with an arms dealer, so you might not want to use that because it's not in the niche, right? So we decided not to do that. I got with my coach. We started talking about, okay, what about the retired real estate agent? Then we realized that it wasn't that most people couldn't identify with that, right? The retired real estate agent. Most people don't retire from real estate. They retire from something else and then get into real estate. I don't remember the last time I was at a retirement party for a real estate agent. Typically doesn't happen, right? It's more likely that you will get out of real estate to do something else and then retire from that than you will to retire from real estate. And also, the other thing is that we would get people that wouldn't be even thinking about retirement very early on in their career and love to sell homes and love to get out, so they couldn't really identify with that. So we settled on the name of the semi-retired real estate agent. So this book was created for a couple different reasons. One, it was during 2020, and I know there's a lot of agents that crush it in 2020, like got into the business, didn't know how they got deals, and they just crushed it. But there were a lot of people that were really hurting, right? And so a lot of people, like in general, not just real estate, but a lot of people were hurting, and I would hear this often, man, 2020 sucks, which you hear every year, right? Every year we get to New Year's and everyone's like, man, last year sucked, farewell, bid farewell to 2023. That sucked. All in for 2024. And then in 2024, we're gonna hear the same thing, right? But so I wanted to look back and go, okay, when everybody else was saying that, man, 2020 sucked, I can say, hey, I became a published author in 2020. So that was one of the reasons that I wrote it. The second reason that I wrote it was that I wanted people to understand why agent attraction was important to me, why I wanted to do that. So it basically opened up with kind of a story about my mom. My mom passed away when I was 18 years old, had just turned 18. A couple months later, she passed away, but she was sick from about the time I was 12 until I was 18. She had dementia, things like that. And at her funeral, there was a standing room only, right? So I share this in one of my previous episodes, like episode 1, I believe, or maybe 4, one of those. But I shared that that story in the beginning so people understand, like, legacy. I wanted to create a legacy, and just selling homes wasn't going to do that. When I was with EXP, I still have agents at EXP that still thank me for introducing them to EXP. I introduced them 5 years ago. And so that you keep getting, you're changing people's lives in that manner. So that's a legacy that I wanted to leave. It was much easier for me to do it that way, and my reach would be much bigger to do it that way. So that's kind of, the opening chapter kind of talks about that. And then it goes into the second chapter where I talk about my dad, and he was a school teacher, and I happen to enjoy teaching myself, just not in the formal or traditional way. As far as like an actual school teacher, those kind of things. I like to teach things that I learn to people who want to learn them, not because they have to sit in the classroom with me. So that's kind of, those two chapters kind of set up what it is that I'm doing and why I'm doing it. And number 3 was I wanted to give these books out to agents in my downline so they could hand them off to agents that they're talking to. Because what was happening even 5 years ago, people, including myself, were vomiting EXP all over people and being like, hey, this is the greatest thing ever. You got to do this. You got to check it out. and every conversation was getting turned off. I mean, I lost friends because I was so aggressive with it. And, you know, unfortunately, I didn't have anybody to learn from at the time. So it was all trial and error. And it was, you know, unfortunately, EXP got a bad name because of this, because of a lot of agents, including myself, that would just go out and say, hey, we have this. It's awesome. Come join us. So what I wanted to do was have my agents hand this book out and get people to just have a conversation, right? Hey, you have a closing with somebody. Say, hey, here's a copy of my book. Here's a copy of my business partner's book. You know, he wrote it. I thought you might get something from it, and they hand it off. So then in a couple of weeks, you can reach back out and say, hey, John, just wanted to check. Do you get a chance to dive into that book yet? You know, chapter 6. I mean, it can really be done with any book, right? But this is just to position myself as an authority, but also to get the agent to have authority by association and say, hey, my partner, the author of this book, or he authored this book and I thought you might enjoy it, and then get people to get on a call with me. I had an agent in Canada which would do this often, where he would give the book out in person, obviously, and talk to him and say, hey, you know, my partner wrote this book, you know, want me to see if I can get him on a call right now? And he would text me if I was available. I'd say, yeah, shoot me a call, or I'd say, hey, call me in 5 minutes. And we'd jump on a call, and I'd have a 3-way call, like speakerphone. So it wasn't a 3-way call, but speakerphone with him and his prospective agent on the phone, and we would have that conversation. So it was just a way to a conversation starter. So those are kind of the 3 things that I want to accomplish with that book. What's funny is that a lot of people, like the semi-retired agent, like I get made fun of for it. It's funny, like I get made fun of for a lot of things, right? But that's okay, because it resonates with some people and it doesn't with others. Perfectly fine. But a lot of people would be like, oh, what's the semi-retired agent do? Just golf and fish, take naps all day? And actually, no, it's not that. But about 5 years ago, I made a commitment that I wasn't going to miss my daughter's soccer games anymore. I wasn't going to miss a soccer game. I wasn't going to miss a soccer tournament because I had to go host an open house. And so what I did was I created the residual income that was coming in from revenue share. And again, it's not yacht money. I'm not talking about yacht money where I'm fully on retired, but I'm semi-retired because I'm still working, but I get a check every month for something that I've done previously, right? So my dad retired after like 26 years or something like that. So he gets a retirement check, right? Retired school teacher gets a check for however much money, but he gets a check every month for work that he did in the past. So I started getting a check for work that I did in the past by recruiting agents and building a downline, and then getting paid on top of that, or getting paid every month from that. So that's kind of where the semi-retired agent came from. And where I wasn't missing, like, I get to take my kids to school. I get to do all that stuff. Like when again, back to my daughter's soccer, there was eventually going to be no more soccer. I could always go back to doing open houses. And guess what? Here we are now, and there's no more soccer. I have no more soccer games to go to. Now I get to go to my son's games and coach those games. But, you know, I'll have that for a few more years, but I'll keep the same structure. I'm not looking to go to show homes and do open houses on weekends or on days that I need to be with him. It's created a massive amount of flexibility in order for me to go ahead and take him to school. And especially with, you know, the anxiety issues that I've talked about before, I was able to kind of curb those and make them not sting as much as if I were to have, you know, a regular job or be an agent that had to be certain places at all times. And again, I'm not talking like rev share. We like to sell like the big, here you're on an island, you're doing this, all that stuff, vacations all the time, buying an RV and going around the country. All that stuff is awesome. And if you get there, that's great. But the reality is an extra couple $100, an extra $500 a month can change your life, right? There's people out there that are trying to figure out how to get their kids braces. Those are the stories that excite me. I'm pretty sure I've shared that recently. I've shared that a couple times with some people outside of this podcast a few times recently. But that's where I get excited, right? Is giving people that extra little hump, that their extra little bump that can get them, you know, that might bridge the gap, might be the difference between a car payment this month or not, when things are slow. And one of the things that I looked at when I started doing this, with building a rev share organization, was when I moved down to Vegas, or when I left Vegas. So I came down here in 2002, moved back to Washington State in 2009. When we left here, there were foreclosures and short sales on every street, multiple on every street, multiple. And then we go to Washington State, and there were a handful. Like, you'd see them, they were still there. I still did a couple short sales up there, as an agent. But what I realized was that there was infrastructure. At that time, Vegas was really only known for entertainment and conventions and things like that. And when we went through the recession, we had a lot of companies were not allowed to come here and have their conventions anymore. So we took a massive hit here. So what I realized at that point, when EXP was introduced to me and there was a rev share downline option model, I was like, oh, okay, well, wait, now I can go everywhere else around the country. And if my market gets hit and other markets are still thriving, I can diversify where I have income coming in from. So that's kind of what really was kind of the aha moment for me. And that's, again, that is where the semi-retired agent comes from, semi-retired real estate agent. And it's not about golfing and napping and fishing, which you can do all those things, but I'm still working. I just happen to get paid for something that I had done prior. Just like somebody who collects a retirement check, they're getting paid for a profession or an industry that they'd worked in for a number of years. So that's kind of why I wrote it. Kind of want to let you know what the semi-retired agent means to me, and how it's more about family than it is about just like doing nothing, right? Still allows me to do all the things that I want to do, and it gives me just, a little extra to make everything work out. So if you want a copy of it, I'll put a link in the comments. And if it's something you want to check out, feel free. It's semi-retiredagent.com or thesemi-retiredagent.com if you wanted to check that out. But I'll put a link in there if you want to check it out, get to know a little bit more about me and why it is I do what I do. All right, I will see you guys tomorrow. Have a great one.